Where are we going between our teams? It's going to be BOE as Expert gets a pick. Zealots will take first.
Alright, so BOE, we have actually seen a lot of cool strategies here. Keep in mind that Tyrande is now back, and she's not really a hero that every team is going to pick. She's not a hero that we are going to see on every single Battleground, but Battlefield of Eternity is definitely one of the Battlegrounds where she is going to be a little bit more common thanks to her trait, which interacts, of course, with the objective as well. So that's a hero that we might see here now, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I hope so. I was speaking to ADRD this last week as we got prepped for these matches. He mentioned that they have been getting a little bit more creative as of late, going back to the roots of being experimental. And so he mentioned that there is some crazy stuff that we could see this weekend. Maybe we'll see it here on BOE, maybe not. Tyrande could be one of those heroes that does become under that umbrella of crazy. But it is kind of interesting to see how much Tyrande got mixed in yesterday during the matches that we saw.
Yeah, I mean, I would not really mix Tyrande in the crazy pack just yet. That's reserved for your Cho'Gall, your Gazlo, Murky. It's basically Trickster heroes that we find in there. Tyrande is actually solid now, especially with that cooldown reduction that she now has on level 13. The Owl build with talents on 1 and 13 can dish out insane damage towards the late game. And even before those changes, we have seen teams dabble a little bit in Tyrande, but ever since then, she has made a bigger appearance, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah.
She's not going to be one of those heroes you're going to see in every single draft on every single map, but I think she will be picked up more frequently.
For those wondering why she's good on BOE, Hunter Mark, it does apply to the Immortal, which is going to help you burn it down. Also, the Owl build that Caldor was mentioning, I have yet to be able to dabble on it, but I really want to play it. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's just always a bit frightening when I've watched a lot of scrims from players that we've already seen on Tyrande that get 80, 90 stacks in a normal game, and then I'm always thinking about, well, I'm not quite sure I'm able to keep up with that to get that same damage output, but it's pretty impressive when you see a pro with like good hits on the skill shots being able to play her. But yeah, you just mentioned it. There is the ban on Medivh. There's a reason why Medivh gets banned against Team Expert, and Zealots, they thought, you know what? We can actually deal with ADRD's Medivh. And they were wrong. So now they accept that, and there we have the ban.
This makes me happy. Some teams get really stubborn and decide that they don't want to ban out a problem hero because they think they can adjust their draft a lot, and sometimes that does work, but sometimes you just have to give in and be like, you know what? Your Medivh's kind of good, and just deal with it.
The thing is, I would have been okay with them letting Medivh slide through in the last draft if they at least ban ETC. It was for me like it's definitely like a two-step process here.
Yeah.
If you let Medivh through, at least make sure that he doesn't get the best combo, but then there's always the argument to be had, what if instead of ETC they pick Diablo and tried to use the Leyline Seal Apocalypse combo. Be it as it may, we don't have to deal with that in our second game because we already see the ban on Medivh. Now we're heading into the ban for Team Expert, and it is going to be Lunara. So already eliminating some of the poke. It's actually interesting because I'm currently questioning if that is leading us to a different healer choice.
We'll have to see here. It does, regardless. The first step about this ban in particular is it leaves open the ETC and the Dehaka. Dehaka falling off a little bit on BOE, but still one that we see get picked off sometimes. It makes it a little bit more impactful that when you come in for the brush shock, you got to make sure you get those engages, but leaving up the two powerhouses that are currently in Europe, not a bad play for Team Expert. It allows for them to adjust their draft based on what is still available after Zealots. Go for the first pick. Yeah,
so we have the Cow King on the first pick position for Team Zealots. And yeah, it is Team Expert right now. This is really the question because Tazada is something we've seen a lot, but they go into Vala. I was just about to say that I feel on Battlefield you don't have to go into a high pick Dehaka.
Yeah.
Dehaka is still great for that side soak, and on Battlefield you have a lot of brushes that you can use in the middle around the objective. So if you get that drag, then you're in a fantastic spot. But I don't think it's as important to immediately counter pick a Dehaka here as it would be on any other 3-lane map, especially of course the bigger they get. But for now it's already an adjustment towards the double support Vala, whereas on the other side we are seeing the Zealots heading into Greymane and Rhaegar. So already they are looking strong when it comes to the Immortal race. Greymane is fantastic here. Rhaegar will take the Lightning Bond and then try to put additional pressure on it.
Yeah, so far Zealots draft looking much better than game number 1. Team Expert doing a solid job here of grabbing at least one of the single target DPSs, which forces Zealots down a route of grabbing the other one before it possibly gets banned out. That's why they went into the Greymane and then grabbed their Rhaegar as well. And now it's all about banning and trying to figure out what formation Team Expert wants to run on this Battleground. Will they go for poke? Will they go for control? Control, a little bit hard to pull off against an ETC and a Rhaegar with cleanse, but still a solid strategy on BOE.
Yeah, and there is still potential for Tyrande to be picked on the side of Zealots. I don't really see her coming into play with what Expert is currently trying to do, with that draft, but Zealots could go into the ETC Tyrande stun follow-up and then try to burst a target down. But for now, the experts are a little bit more worried about Zamini's hero pool, since they are saying, hey, who's going to play the solo lane for us? Who are we going to put in there? They could play with Sonya, for example. She also has a lot of damage potential against the Immortal itself. Then we still have the Haka as an option if you're more focused on the wave player. But we would expect the support to be... support and solo laner is probably what we're going to see right now, and then a tank on the last pick.
The Nubrak ban here, one, because Bad Benny runs a pretty mean bug, but also Rhaegar with the Ancestor Healing. If you are able to ever get someone low health, about to mid health, a Nubrak should cocoon out that Rhaegar as soon as they can to make sure the Ancestor Healing doesn't come off. Zealot's taking that play away here from Team Expert, which has been pretty common as of late, with Rhaegar starting to pop up again in the priority for a lot of teams.
Yeah, so let's see what Expert are heading into. I mean, they might go a bit crazy on us. You already said that they are experimenting with a bit more, which is definitely true. The question is, what are they confident in playing here on Battlefield of Eternity right now? Again, we need that second support for Vala. The early ban against Lunara already indicates that they might go... Okay, so they go for their tanks first. Which is the Harkov and Muradin right now. So we have already follow-ups, one stun. Muradin has a lot of self-sustain as well, can always jump out, a lot of survivability on him, then the Haka for the drag, so you have 2 disables already. Support could be interesting since they banned out Lunara first, but what are we going to see for the Zealots?
Still thinking about the support for Team Expert. I think this usually indicates we're going to move into that Brightwing, grab that second global, but they also have a cleanse for ETC. They can polymorph when he comes in for the fight. We'll see if that will be the choice for them for number 5.
I mean, we've been talking a lot about Tyrande, and she might even make an appearance here.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Tyrande, Tacita, I've seen a few, but normally when, like most of the Tyrande games that we've seen, it was with a full second support.
Yeah.
I have seen some games with Tacita Tyrande, but not as many, since it doesn't have as much heal power as if you are comboing her off with a full support, so it makes games a little bit harder for you in the way that you're taking damage, so you have to be careful about that. But for now we are seeing Abathur taken and Genji, so Shad on Abathur can first of all copy Greymane later or Genji, and has 2 targets for a Symbiote Hat as well. So they're going for that side soak on Battlefield of Eternity, bringing Abathur in his high priority that we currently experience in Euro once again into the game.
Does that Genji Abathur automatically make it where Tyrande's really hard to pull off here?
I mean, not necessarily. They have stuns available to them, but it definitely puts more pressure on it, so I'm not quite sure if I would be comfortable going into Tyrande at this point.
That's what I would be struggling with here. I think the Brightwing be safer. Is there any other supports that immediately jump out to me?
I mean, we've been seeing some stuff. I was like earlier thinking a bit about maybe them pulling a Dignitas here and heading into something like even Morales when they started with a ban on Lunara. Then again, Uther, of course, can always be put under a lot of pressure when you have a Lunara on the other side. But yeah, at this point, if they want to have disabled and Brightwing with Polymorph against not only Greymane, Genji, but also potentially ETC would be a good option. But they go into Uther, they have the stun available, so Lunara being banned out allows Uther to shine a little bit more. There's not as much of AoE. Cocktail, of course, could be an issue. But yeah, overall solid draft for both teams. Double support comp on the side of Team Expert, trying to put the focus on Vala in particular, and Genji, Greymane, Abathur. It's like, you have a lot of good symbiote targets on that side. Yeah,
you really do here. You're able to harass pretty effectively, get the decent damage in there. Genji can dive into a target, make it a quick 1.5 versus 1 there with the spike damage from Abby. And then, of course, he can also soak the Dahaka side lanes that are coming in with his body and be a bit of a nuisance. So a nice pickup here for Zealots. Does it pay off, though?
I mean, I definitely like the draft a lot better than what they had before. They need to be careful with Abathur and make sure that he doesn't fall, especially when the Haka attempts to hunt him down. But besides that, I think their draft is way better than what they showcased on in game number 1. So the drafting process here with an early ban against Medivh, just respecting the strength on the side of Team Expert, I like that. They also have ETC now, and we've been talking a lot about why he is so strong. So I think they have a solid, both of the teams have a really good draft.
Well, let's go and get started here. Game number 2, we're going to Battlefield of Eternity as Team Expert is up 1-0 over the Zealots. Can Zealots tie it up?
Heading into the game, we are on Battlefield of Eternity. Game number 2 with Grand Paquette for the Zealots on Rhaegar. We have Poik on Genji. To the left side in blue, it's Mopsio on ETC. And of course, we are seeing Zarmony this time on Greymane with Shad playing the Worm, playing Abathur.
On the right side in the red, Nick will play Vala, Thorough on Dahaka, ADRD playing Tassadar, Bad Binny on Muradin, and Curson playing Uther.
Now that we're heading into the game, already a bit of a talent adjustment. Make sure that if you play one of these heroes that you think about your talent build. This is a map where it's incredibly difficult oftentimes to get regeneration globes, at least enough to stack a talent. So in this case, we don't see Prog Rock taken for ETC, but Block Party instead for Mopsio. So a small adjustment to be made. Of course, if you win every single Immortal, then it makes it a bit easier for you to complete a quest talent that's based around regeneration globes. But Mopsio plays it safe here and expects a lot of fights and posturing in the mid lane.
Yeah, very, very helpful, especially against that Vala be coming in here, that Tassadar too. So the Block Party will be useful here for Zealots.
And of course also with talents, again, we've been talking this to death, but there's still a lot of people that are confused out there. If you play with a Vala on this map in particular, go for the arrow build. It is by far the most powerful build right now on Battlefield of Eternity. And it is so good that in a lot of cases it is also played on Dragonshire, on Cursed Hollow, and a lot of maps where you don't highly focus on the added wave clear that you get if you go into a multi-shot hybrid. One of the few maps where we rarely see an arrow build is actually on, first of all, Infernal Shrines, where you try to get more AoE for the objective, and also on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
And speaking about builds too, Tassadar here going to the Side Storm at level 1. It synergizes so well with the double Side Storm that you pick up later on. It gets to a point where you can soften up your opponents, really deter them away from coming to the Immortals. This is more of a mid to late game type of build here for Tassadar, but one that is very, very annoying. Allows you to sit on the backside, poke from afar, and keep that Vala constantly around those shields. So this is a nice safe pickup here for the TAS.
Also with the Lightning Bond on Rhaegar, oftentimes when you play, for example, Hero League and you see someone going into a full wolf form on this map, it's one of those moments when you just want to smash your head against the keyboard a couple of times. So don't cause that in your allies. Pick Lightning Bond, since you all of a sudden have 2 lightning shields that help you to race down the Immortals' hit points just so much faster. Hey, it's a perfect talent for the map.
I build wolf build. What do you guys say to me, Caldor?
Of course you do.
I get cleansed to 7. Okay, I'm somewhat of a team player.
I'm not going to even acknowledge the rest.
Dude, the movement speed's insane against diving compositions. All right, Muradin at the same time, taking some poke down here on the bottom side. Power slide comes in from Mopsio. Bad Binny is low on health, but he still steps up.
Considering that I've seen you run away in the Dahaka video quite a bit, and I've also seen your running style, it makes perfect sense to me that you are trying to run away a little bit faster in those fights.
All I know is that on the talent screen, on the death recap, you have a death, and I have a big goose egg where the deaths are. So, I don't know, man, but it sounds like I'm looking good in the stats.
Okay.
Immortal, down to half health, gets picked off there. I feel like that was just, that put a nail in your coffin, man. Your entire build, your decision there, done.
I give up. There's of course no argument to be made for Lightning Bond and winning the Immortal, and therefore the game. You're correct, Tim.
Thank you for agreeing with me.
I yield.
Appreciate it. Bad Binny jumps out. He's low on health, but he storm bolts, and they turn around on the Genji and they delete him.
Genji down, Bad Benny is straight procs, and he immediately gets quite a big chunk of his hit points back, as he's just like trying to make sure that he's not getting too close to Mopsio for him to interrupt it. But yeah, this is actually looking pretty solid now for Team Expert, as they got that kill and can focus on the Immortal once more. Zarmony is trying to put some extra damage in, and Bad Benny needs to be careful. Hop, little dwarf, hop. Even ADRD turning around for a quick shield. But this is the first Immortal going over to Team Expert, so job well done. And so far, they're looking good here. I mean, it got scary for a second for the frontliner, but outside of that, that was a very solid approach to the first objective.
Nice big pick there on Genji. Will ward them here. The push in the top lane. They go ahead and start bostering in and going ahead and pushing forward. This is a little bit hard for Zealots to defend easily due to Abathur being on the field and Dahaka pushing on the bottom side, so we'll see how they handle this push that comes their way. If there is ever a stun that may connect, Bad Binny can really move in for the engage and drop the Storm Bolt, especially with Mopsio coming in with that power slide.
Yeah, Mopsio already lurking in the shadows here, but just pushing the wave for now. Poik gets the assistance of Abathur, trying to help out, whereas Abathur at the bot lane, of course, has to be cautious that Dahaka doesn't get too close for comfort. In the meantime, we're having Ethereal just pushing that wall in pretty heavily, and up to the top. Once again, the engaged Stormbolt hits hard, hits home. Grand Paquette already low. Nick wants the kill, but barely doesn't get it as AD already tries to provide us the last bit of damage with a quick size dome.
No, that was a really interesting tug of war that we got to explain to our viewers at home why it was so important. Zealots went in for the engage, but they weren't trying to get kills. They were just trying to get Team Expert away from the Immortal so they can turn around, get Greymane to apply damage to that Immortal, while the fort also is the only major defense. This allows for the Zealots to at least buy some space here, to buy some time here to defend that Immortal, while Team Expert, they're answering back with the tug of war by pulling back, but the moment Zealots try to escape back towards the Immortal, clear it up, they went in for the engage. And that happened 3 or 4 times, and eventually a kill happened, but the idea is to try and control that space as well as you can. Zealots and Team Expert played that very well.
Yeah, once again, slide by the way, as Mopsio is trying to engage here, but he gets locked down for a moment and needs a lot of damage. But Grand Paquete shows once again why it's so beneficial to actually have Rhaegar with all that AoE heal when we're talking about a heavy front line. And with Greymane, Genji and ETC up at the front, the heal value is pretty impressive. Now, since we're talking about value, the level 7 talent on Abathur is also something to be highlighted here. We have Mule taken, so depending on how the game goes, it can provide a lot of value or none at all. So Zealots need to try and make sure that they keep their structures alive and then also buy enough time for the Mule to heal them up again, to repair them.
I mean, look at the Mule in the top left. I mean, it got the fort over to 3/4 health. It was down to a quarter at the point. Team Expert not being able to get the value out of the Immortal they were wanting to have. They just lose out on the turrets. That's all Zealots lose out on. They get the fort nice and healed up. Mule just paying here.
Yeah, in this game, I mean, it's always a matter of how you play with it. Your opponent is going to see that you have Mule, and it's going to be an immediate sign for them, we need to destroy structures. Just poking them down doesn't work. So you need to make sure that your defense is strong enough so that you give that space for Mule to come into effect. We've seen a lot of games on this map, on Sky Temple, where Mule was taken, but never really got any value whatsoever. In this game so far, it already started to pay off because of the top lane, but the Haka is now starting to push that in again. But thanks to the fort being repaired by Mule earlier, it also means that the Haka is going to spend more time up there, and that time can be used by the Zealots attempting to force a fight down here.
And the fight has already been broken out slightly here. Zealots have a nice lead on the Immortal, but nothing too crazy here as they set up defense with Abathur Mines and also actually set up a gank here on the Dahak in the top right. A Thorough tries to get away, but he gets picked off as Poit goes in for that big engage.
It was definitely good damage against Grand Paquete, and even with him going down, Rhaegar was already quite low here and has to consider even moving back to the Nexus to regain health. And that is a little bit annoying for them, at least for now, because they can't really capitalize on the kill. That's their biggest problem. With Rhaegar having to back off and Genji also backing off as well, now the Haka is back, so he's going to be on the map again at the same time, and that comes down to the death timers currently still being very low.
It should give them a little bit of experience, especially if they soak that bottom lane though. There's a wave and a half that should propel them up to be a bit even with Team Expert, and that's happening right now as Genji is soaking that lane. But you are right, they weren't able to actually follow it up. They had to play completely defensive, so a solid job by a Thorough, at least landing that drag. Bad Vinny is on the side here against Mopsio, and it's a battle of the tanks. Poit goes in.
Oh my god, Nick goes down, and that should not have happened here. That was a bit weird. So I think he still had the wall cooldown up. I might be wrong on that. I might have missed it, but I was actually waiting for him to use it so he can get a double arrow in. And that did not come to pass. So all of a sudden, he dies. And with that, we have an immediate back off by Team Expert since they have no chance of fighting here without their main damage dealer.
That's what Zealots wanted to do on their last kill here. Just go in and burn down the Immortal. And they do it here. Working on the Immortal on the side. Valla has respawned. She is on the way from the well. Bad Benny goes in to buy some time with the Stormbolt. Cleanse will be utilized here by Rhaegar.
It was still a big win that we saw from the Zealots, but keep in mind that we already have 50 extra damage on Vala's Q on her arrow, so now she can use that at the Immortal. That's exactly what we're seeing. Arrow and a quick wall and then immediately an arrow afterwards. Nick is getting the damage in solidly. Here comes ETC though, it's a party, but he gets immediately silenced. ETC moves in with the Mosh Pit, which gets interrupted. The Divine Shield is already on Vala and trying to go in once again. Genji, of course, with the Dragon Blade slicing away, but Mopsio slides out just before the Immortal stun takes him down, but Nick is ready once again and drops him. Finally.
Team Expert just brings a better team fight here, taking 3 people down right away, dealing with everything that comes to her side. Greymane tried to go in for a last-ditch attempt to at least trade out the Vala, but she survived there by Uther bringing out the heals, and now a spot that Zealots were pretty ahead in with the Immortal. They now fall behind as Team Expert with 100 health just barely win the Immortal phase.
Feels bad, man.
That drag into a stun. Wow, unfortunate there as Rhaegar is a dead puppy.
No, they should have kept him alive a little bit longer so that Nick can stack his quest a bit more.
The high-level strats from Caldor.
I'm still blown away by the last game. That was pretty funny. No, but I mean, let's talk about this for a second. There were actually a few moments where Expert in the fight got a bit lucky, even with Vala, for example, surviving. But even if Vala goes down, it was still a win for the Expert, and they are doing so much with this. Of course, didn't have a lot of shields, so they can now push through, but they still establish an entire level lead for themselves. But we come back to the original problem. You don't drop the structure, Abathur is going to drop the mule. And that's exactly what we can expect to happen down at the bot lane. So we are going to see that repaired again. Even though the Zealots lost the Immortal, they might have lost experience because of the deaths, but they didn't lose structures yet.
That is right, and the mule being at half health is now being healed on up as that mule is chugging away, clearing up that structure, and Abathur with the hat in the top stops Dahaka from pushing in too heavily. And if this continues to the next Immortal phase, both of those forts will be full 100% health there with the mule. So Team Zealots, despite not really doing too well in the team fights, 5-2 in kills so far, are still in this game and staying toe-to-toe here against Team Expert. About a level behind in experience, but still on a spot where they can force team fights.
The talent the Team Expert is going to pick up now is a big deal, though. And the one big thing about those forts is mainly that you have a path to retreat, and you can slow down a push of your opponent a little bit. Especially it makes it easier to control Dahaka for now, since he can't push towards your keep yet. So his pressure on lane is a little bit slowed down, and it doesn't really affect your last line of defense immediately, which is definitely worth a lot. But the fountains are still eliminated, so you can't move back and simply tap and move back into the fight. And that's something that Team Expert still has. So ideally, the Zealots would, for example, up here at the top lane, try and take the fountain down, so that Team Expert cannot just simply move back after a fight through the Immortal and then move in again.
All they got really, though, was a wave experience, which is helpful. They are a quarter away from the 13 while the Immortal is spawning in the next 15 seconds, so they can work on their mercs on the left side, soak that bottom lane, and they should be able to match their opponents in talents. But Team Expert taking the small window they have, and they are opening it heavily in the top as they finally do break down their first fort of the game.
Yeah. Barely. Now, but to get it. And the thing is that we have now 13 versus 13. Let's not forget about Meridian's big power spike on level 13 here with healing static. This is the main reason why he picks his level 4 talent, why he goes on level 4 straight into the Thunderburn, because you have the double clap, and that procs the healing from healing static on 13 twice. Super important if you want to play a very tanky Meridian, and it's hard to take down, and you will see that in the big team fights later on.
And don't forget about 13's Tassador with that nullification. Wonderful against a Genji with that Dragon Blade. He comes in and dives your backline, drop the nullification on top of him, and you make it much harder for the Genji to actually put out that damage, reducing their damage by 75% for 4 seconds, Caldor. 4 seconds!
OP, OP.
OP, OP, man. Team Expert and Zealots facing off in the middle. This is the poke dance that you normally see. This is enabled by Team Expert because of Dahaka, but Zealots able to match because of Abathur.
Yeah, but Benny was a pretty impressive miss on his Stormbolt. Pretty atypical for him.
Does always feel bad. You just whip him, you're like,
Especially when he stands right next to you.
No one saw that.
That thing was harder to miss than to hit. But normally he's spot on. I mean, his Stormbolt setups have already caused a few deaths on the side of the Zealots, but in this case, he missed by a mile. Mopsio and I think Meridian, both of them were pretty surprised to find each other and stand next to each other in their brush. Overall now, though, the poke war, as you said, of course, continues, and this is where Vala is going to be important again.
Yeah, surprisingly, they've already done, what, a quarter of damage to the opposing Immortal? It's only been from arrows so far, nothing too crazy coming from Team Expert, except for a couple of Qs here and there. Zealots trying to dance back on their side here on the right, but they need to find a moment to where that Vala might be out of position, or if they can find a pick. But with Curson and Tassadar doing a good job of controlling that top right side, Poik can't find that angle. Yeah,
Nick also, keep in mind, if you watch Nick right now, the arrows that he shoots, he usually doesn't always commit to the vault for the double arrow, and that's really important when you play Vala. Vault is your only escape tool, and it's also a good chase tool, of course, but you don't always try to get the double shot in, because then it's on cooldown, and if your opponent uses that moment to engage upon you, then you're in trouble.
Like
and
there.
Yeah, especially with Genji and Greymane and ETC in that setup, you want to hold that back a little bit longer, until you either have a confirmed kill or you use it defensively. And that was already a very good approach to burn down the copy. Grand Paquette was isolated, but now that ult has dropped too. A lot of cooldowns have been burned here on the sides, a lot of important ones at least, and now Expert is pushing forward since they know that the copy is gone.
ETC still has that Mosh Pit and Power Slide combo available. Stun comes out on Mopsio. Thoro's able to escape with Bad Benny. Both of them them are low on health, but should be able to top off. But that isolation used very well there to keep the Rhaegar away, which made Zealots play safer, which allowed for Team Expert to kill the Ultimate Evolution clone. And there is some time before it's back up.
Yeah, it's also we have Stray for Vala, so no Rain of Vengeance interrupt for Moshpit. It's one of those things, I mean, you really want to take Stray, but at the same time, when I play Vala and I see an ETC on the other side, I feel always so bad when I don't go for that extra interrupt. But they are confident in Bad Benny here. But here's the Moshpit immediately. Divine Shield saving Vala for now. Bad Benny already a little bit low, as we're seeing Genji jumping in the back. Stray being popped, dropping the damage, pushing Poik back. He gets healed by Grandpa, but the rest of Team Expert goes for the Immortal and takes it down.
A lot of heroics used, but the Immortal becomes the prize. Zealots don't lose any members, but they have to be at a spot now where they have to defend against their opponent pushing into them. And here's the thing, Team Expert's about to hit level 16 as well. They will be able to push this beatdown harder here with that talent advantage. Yeah,
running with that advantage is going to be what they need to do right now. And that Immortal, of course, is going to be so much stronger than the previous ones. A big shield on it as well, 60% roughly, as we are moving in. And this time, Abathur's Mule is not going to accomplish anything. Mopsio in the back. Keep in mind, he has no Moshpit anymore. Here we go, copy already used on Abathur, as we're seeing Zealots moving in heavily once again.
Dragon Blade will be utilized. Curson is the target, but a Thorough comes around and lands a money isolation on Greymane, keeping Zarmony at bay, and they turn around and they light up Genji.
Genji is down already, the copy also eliminated, and the Immortal itself already moved through the fort, and now they're trying to go in again, as Mopsy gets slowed by Vala's level 16, using the Frost Shot here to gain a bit more control during the fights, and Expert is not done yet. They go through the side gate and look to see if they can maybe land another combo on Mopsio. Keep Murden in mind. With one good jump, one good Stormbolt, he can set them up for a drag on Dihaka and then a kill through Vala.
Zealots are keeping Murden in mind and playing it safe here. They know they have 5 more seconds until Genji is on the field. They don't do anything here to stop the Keep from getting picked up. They'll go ahead and fight to survive, and they will survive to fight for another day. But it's going to come down to one more chance here, it looks like, with the Immortals being the next big target for our two teams.
Expert definitely making a big statement here overall in the series so far. We've been talking a lot about the importance of the series. Zealots with big win streaks starting to come into the HGC just this phase from the open division through the Crucible, and all of a sudden, instead of them being afraid of dropping into the Crucible, they all of a sudden have and had a shot to go to BlizzCon. But Expert are, of course, the team that has the bit of a better standing here. Now they're showing why. They're fighting back and they're trying to ruin those dreams. Nice Ancestral attempt, but it doesn't go through, and the cow goes down. We are seeing Zarmony being stunned out too, and Rhaegar drops, as does Greymane. The Wolf-like is eliminated, as only Genji is still alive. Not even Bad Benny has fallen, as he was the main target of Zealot's efforts. And now Bad Benny and his boys are moving straight down to the bot lane. It's only Abathur, only Genji, and they are starting to head towards the core.
Yeah, you may be asking, why did Zealots go for that? They were hoping to surprise their opponent on an improper rotation that they haven't tried before this entire match and catch them by surprise. And they found a Murden. The thing is, Murden was able to keep himself... Oh my gosh, they just destroyed Genji. Murden was able to keep himself alive long enough for his teammates to show up. Team Expert easily win the team fight, and Zealots will just have to take their core being destroyed right now, as they are not spawning for another 5 seconds.
Yeah, the core goes down and Team Expert takes the 2-0. Abathur dropping another mule there, but that doesn't do anything. Yeah, he tried. Genji did too, but to be honest, like, that was a bit of a facepalm Swift strike that we saw there at the end. The first one was okay. Basically, this is the worst thing that can happen to you, and you see that oftentimes in amateur plays. You see the last hero on the map, the core is wide open, Genji zips through them, starts running away, and everybody's like, let's get him! And all of a sudden you waste time and you can't finish the core. But Zealots, Expert, they were basically just saying, you know what, we don't care about that guy. But when he zipped through them again in the middle of them, wasn't cool, then they were like, wait a second, are you suicidal? All right, here, come on, we'll help you. So he goes down, but of course, game was over anyways. Good job by Team Expert. They take the 2-0 lead in the best-of-5 series. And that is for them a big relief, and for Zealots also a little bit of a damper towards their ambition of heading towards the HGC finals at BlizzCon. So they're not out of the series just yet, but making a reverse sweep happen against Expert is going to be difficult.
We'll see if they'll have the chance here to get that reverse sweep, as we'll be right back after this commercial break as Expert continues to move forward here. They're 2-0 against Zealots.